Welcome to Insight Builder channel. Boost your XSLT XML workflow with Agentic IDE and artificial intelligence. The business process management is assisted with artificial intelligence now. You might have a challenge that you are facing at your work, at your business, or you are trying to interface two different systems and you are facing a challenge with your XML and XSLT. And when you are trying to connect with me, I'll be first of all trying to understand your challenges and then try to provide solutions and guide you how you can use Agentic IDEs. This video is about how to use the Agentic IDEs for your XML and XSLT challenges. Before we dive into that, we have to understand the why, where, and how of XML and XSLT. And then we will look into the Agentic IDEs, the IDE that we will be using for solving the challenges. We will be walking through a solution and a documentation of the solution in this video. So stay tuned for that. Irrespective of the platform that you are working upon, whether you could be working upon SAP, Oracle HCM, ADP Workforce, Altipro, even Zoho, open source applications like HRMS, ERP Next, Odoo, Triton, and a lot more applications have XML and XSLT challenges that you might be facing, irrespective of the programming languages also, whether it is Java, Python, Go, there are XML and XSLT involved. The reason why I'm trying to give you all this framework details is that irrespective of the applications that you're working on or the platforms that you're working on, the XML and XSLT is used below the platform, meaning it is used in connecting the platform. So as you can see here, that the XML and XSLTs are used in the web services. Wherever there is a API calls using web service, then there is XML. If you're generating a report, whether it is using Excel or whether it is using some hi-fi looking platform that we saw here, whether it is Workday, SAP, or Oracle, we have XML being used there. The business process workflow automation has extensively uses XML and XSLT. The regulatory filings in the government, in tender, in case of various other activities that the government does, there is XML that is flowing underneath the activities. HRIS, the Human Resource Information System, storing employee data, payroll, job description, everything that HR does has some of the XML or XSLT involvement. The HR team as a whole may not be knowing or may not be even seeing the XMLs, but the technical team or the functional team that is working underneath or behind them in the backend work with the XML and XSLT extensively. Payroll data exchange and job applications are actually XMLs. And finally, on your own machine, on your Windows laptop or your Linux machine, you are using a lot of Office suites, the registry details that is running your operating system, the browsers that you're using to browse the internet, everywhere XML is used. Now, what are the challenges you are facing? Yeah, the technical part of XML and XSLT is there, but the real world problems are not discussed in terms of XML and XSLT, right? So people talk about data mapping is not working, the integration has failed, the employee data is not processing and the data is not uploading to the third party system, the data report is completely different from what we asked for. There could be hundreds of points that comes up, and when you look at the challenges, you may not see XML XSLT directly, but believe me, when you actually dive into it, there is going to be XML, and to a certain extent there is going to be XSLT, especially the XPath selection failure. Most of the time, if a report is not working or if the job application is not getting through, if an employee payroll data is not getting updated, probably the XPath was not selected properly. The reason is not that the existing system is flawed. The reason is that The existing system has been created for a particular business process, meaning you have to go through a certain set of steps in order to complete a process, right? In fact, the entire code works on that. But if someone in the process makes a mistake, which is usually that happens, the business process may not work and the business process might fail. The XPath selection may not happen. Because of this, the technical team has to review why the XPath is failing or why the system is not working and then give you the solution. And that is where we are going to use the Agentic IDEs. We know how XML and XSLT works together. If you are new to this, then just a brief overview. XML is a transport medium for your data. It is a file or the format that transfers your data between the systems over the internet. XSLT is the rules for transforming, meaning modifying the data. Okay, transporting is just moving the data, while transforming is modifying the data completely. We'll be seeing that in action. Your primary target should be to learn and extract logic. When you look at all these problems, right, all these challenges, there is a logic that has failed somewhere. Once you understand and extract that logic, then converting that logic into XSLT becomes way more easier. And for that, we'll be using Agentic IDEs. So, what are Agentic IDEs? And have you used these Agentic IDEs already? If you have used the ChatGPT, then you have used Agentic IDEs. In fact, if you asked ChatGPT to provide you a code, then ChatGPT opens a canvas in recent times and it writes the code directly on the browser itself. So ChatGPT is actually an IDE right now on the browser. Well, what is an IDE then? IDE is the integrated development environment. When I say integrated, the development environment is integrated with your file system. Okay, so if I come to this presentation and if I use some shortcut key, I have used shortcut key called Control B and I am able to see the files here. And if I use another shortcut, Control L, I am able to see the chat interface in the same place where I was showing you the presentation. So what exactly was happening is I was showing you the presentation inside the cursor IDE. Cursor development environment. So cursor is one of the Agentic IDEs that directly integrates with your file system, right? And this has a lot of benefits. The files are directly in your system. You don't need to upload the files to the browser by using mouse or any of the additional operations. And there is a lot more that you will see. Apart from integrating with your operating system, the IDE is a development environment, meaning you can develop the entire solution, the logic, and you can test it in this environment that I showed you right now. So you don't need to leave this environment and you don't need to shift from this environment to a different browser, different application to solve your problem. In fact, you will actually move the XML and XSLT once you are to your application after you have solved it, right? But the entire testing process, the coding process, everything will be done inside this Agentic IDE location. So let me just show you an example of the paychecks format that we'll be working on, and you can see that I'm seamlessly moving between the presentation and the XML document that I'm going to work upon. So the Agentic IDE is very smooth and it helps your workflow and keeps you in the flow. So there are lots of advantages to that. When the AI is integrated, so when I use this chat window here, I can actually get more information from the artificial intelligence model that is already loaded into the IDE itself. So you can see GPT-4o Mini, this is an OpenAI model, and you can also see Claude 3.5 Sonnet, which is again another AI model that has been integrated with this IDE directly. And this IDE and the AI models can look at the files that you have. So if I click on add context, I can add the paychecks file that I used just a minute ago. So this file that you saw here, that file can be added here in the chat window. So this is the benefit of working with Agentic IDE, right? You can write and execute commands directly on the command line. The command line is also present here. So in the Agentic IDE, you can see the command line directly at the bottom. I am using a lot of shortcuts here in this video. The main point I wanted to show you here is that you can use the IDE in a streamlined fashion. You can get to see all the details of how to look at all these shortcuts by looking at the menu bar. If you go to the view, you can get all the details here. So you can see the shortcuts that is also used for this, right? Now, the point I want to make is that Agentic IDEs are phenomenal applications. So you have to use them to make your workflow and boost your workflow with XML and XSLT. Apart from writing the XML and XSLT, it can also debug the error thrown during the execution. So if you have an error, we'll be seeing a couple of errors. It will help you to solve it. And finally, it can help you to generate learning material. This is one of the, not just the learning material, it can help you to generate documentation also. So stay tuned. You are going to have a phenomenal idea of how these things work. So the challenge that you are going to work upon. So I showed you one of the format here, the paychecks format. So here we have a person, an employee who is having a particular salary and a particular bank info, right? We want this kind of output from an XML that is already created. So we have a complex employee XML here, okay? And this could be from a very different companies. I'm just showing it as an HR payroll bank details. So you have this employee details here, and we need to convert that into this format. And in order to do this conversion, we need XSLT, right? That is the process which we will be looking at. So let us go back to the presentation. What we are going to do is we are going to filter the employees who have the pending status, and we want to format the extracted payroll data from the XML, and then we have to use the XSLT to transform the data to the vendor format. The vendor format is going to be the paychecks vendor. I'm just taking paychecks for example. You can have any other vendor format involved here. The point I want to make is that irrespective of the systems, as I already mentioned to you, that there are various systems out there. There are various systems, and all of these systems are using XML and XSLT in different applications, right? So what are we going to do right now is pretty simple. So I'm going to close this presentation so that it will be easier for us. So I'm going to go to the editor layout, and I'm going to click on multiple tabs. So you can see the tabs that is opening here. So this is how I will be able to control the varieties of tabs. So I'm going to close this presentation, and now I'm able to look at the employee data. Okay, I'm going to work with two data here. So there is a complex employee.xml. All these files that you see here will be shared with you in the description in the YouTube video. So take a look at the video description. You will be able to get the code that you are seeing here. Continuing. The point I want to make here is that we have a complex employee data, and we have to convert that into this format. So if you are from a HR background, if you are from a business process background, what you will do is you will call a developer and you will ask him to write an XSLT or solve this problem for you, right? In this case, what you are going to do is we are going to call the chat window in the cursor ID to do the process for you, to write the XSLT for you. Okay, so what is the process? First thing is, once you open the chat window, so in order to open the chat window, you need to use the shortcut key called Control L. Okay, that is a shortcut key. You can see the shortcut key written here, right? You need to use Control L, and I need to add the context. So in order to add the context, if I click on this, you can select the files. So these files are already stored in the folder. So in order to open the folder, you have to click on file here and you have to go to open folder. Just a minute. So you have to go to open folder. So once you open the folder, you can select the folder which has all these files. So after that, the files will get updated here. And I'm going to work on two XMLs. I'm going to work on paychecks format XML, which is shown here, and the complex employee XML that is also shown here. I'm going to add them, and I'm going to ask for a XSLT file. So I'm going to select the Claude 3.5 Sonnet model, which is really good in creating the code related applications. So I'm going to ask, I have provided the paychecks XML format and a complex employee XML data. Employee XML data. Write a XSLT document for transforming the complex. So you can select the files also by using the @ keyword. So the moment I select, you see it got updated here. You can collapse this, transforming the complex employee XML into the format shown in paychecks XML. So both of these things we have to mention, and I'm asking for an XML document. Okay, and after this, I have to just click on submit to code base. So once I submit it, what will happen is it will start creating the it will start reading the XML and it will start writing the XSLT. So you can see that it has already started writing the XSLT, and after that it is actually telling what it did. So that is the important point. Okay, so let me first of all work on the XSLT first. So here you can see that it has already written the XSLT. So in order to use this XSLT, you need to come to the Explorer. You have to use Control B shortcut key, and you have to create a new file. So I'm going to say transformation.xslt. So this is the file, and I want to apply this. You can see that apply to transformation.xslt. You can see that, right? And after that it applies here. So the entire file gets applied, and I'm going to close this chat window for a second, and you can see that it is in green color. So it means that you have to accept the file updates. So you have to accept it. It will become the regular file, and now this file has been written to your local folder. So if you go to the local folder, you will be able to find this file. So that is how it works. You can directly get the code from the AI and you can write it on your local machine, and the XSLT format has been written for you. You can actually take a look at the XSLT right now. You can see that the starting XSLT updates are with the proper payroll and paychecks name system or namespace, and then we have the varieties of templates that is getting updated here, right? And we have the HR employee that is getting linked. We can see that the HR employee is getting selected, and the currency details, etc., is extracted. It is concatenating the details. It is going through the entire process. I am not actually going through the logic for you guys. You might be wondering, okay, are you going to explain me the logic? Actually, no. What I'm going to do is I'm going to let the AI do that for me. I'm going to use Control L. I'm going to open the same chat window I was having, and now I'm going to ask, provide me the explanation for the XSLT in the markdown format. So what I am asking here is that the entire explanation, I want the AI itself to provide it to me, and it is going to do that. So you can see that it is actually writing the explanation for each part of it, and you will see in a moment that I can create a XML, the markdown format, and I can actually share it with you guys. This particular format will be shared over the internet in the GitHub repo, and you will be able to see that. So let me do that in a moment. So this file has been, the explanation has been created. I'm going to close the chat window. Since the real estate is less in my display, I have opening and closing stuff. So I'm going to create the explanations .md file. So this is a markdown format that I'm using. Okay. And I can copy all this information and I can paste it here. All the information that is related to the XSLT explanation is updated. So let me show you right now. So this is all updated here. So this looks like a regular code to you. So if I change it to the markdown format, so now this looks like a proper document, right? You can see that it shows the namespace declaration. It explains the varieties of namespaces. It talks about the root template that has been created, and it tells what the root template does. It then goes to the employee template, and it explains what were the varieties of steps it took. Transaction ID creation, employee information extraction, and bank information masking. So all of these 3 steps was done in this area. And then the key features. So it tells about the key features that it did. So it selected the data, it included the data security, and then it did the formatting, right? So by now you must have got the sense of what I am trying to achieve here, right? We actually converted something which is like this by using the XSLT into something which is going to be different, which is going to be like this, which is going to be of this format, in the Paychex XML format. Now, the idea of doing all these things, I did everything inside the IDE only. I did not leave the IDE, right? You saw that. The point I wanted to make is the agentic IDEs are completely integrated. You don't need to leave the environment at all. And not just that. Now, here is the important or interesting thing that you can do. Right. After you did the XSLT transformation data, what you can do is you can actually check these 2 things. You can check whether the data is processed 100% and whether all the scenarios are accounted for. So how are you going to account for all the scenarios? So what you can do is you can actually open, let me close this, let me keep the XSLT here, and let me open the chat window again. I can ask to the AI that give me the scenarios that I can use to test the XSLT in the XML format. Now what it will do is it will actually write the XML document or the XML data, fictitious XML data that we can use for testing the scenario, right? So it is actually showing you the scenarios, right? Here it is explaining you the scenarios, so one by one, and once you get the explanation, you can actually take this explanation and update it in the explanation.md. So this explanation also will be shared with you guys. So once it completes it, so I'm just going to click on the copy message, come to the explanation.md here, and I can paste it. And in parallel, I can ask, okay, give me the XML document with the above scenario. So what it will do is it will actually create an XML document for me, right? You have to be specific when you are talking with the artificial intelligence models, and you can see that it is creating the test scenarios.xml. So with this test scenarios.xml and with this XSLT, you can actually test all the scenarios. Moreover, having the scenarios in your hand is one of the critical things that many of your management people will ask for. So you can develop the documentation, you can develop the test scenarios, you can work on the XSLT and everything that you're doing in a single place. And along with that, you are also getting all the information of how it is being done, right? And I'm doing everything in real time here. I am not creating any of these documents ahead of time, right? Whatever mistakes or challenges that I'm facing, I'm showing right in front of you, right? And all of this data will be available. So you can actually check it out also. So let us actually go back to the presentation. So in order to go back to the presentation, I have to go back here and I have to click the presentation here. And I am back in the presentation. How easy it is, right? I have not even left this window unless it is required. So I believe that you have got a very good introduction of how you can use Agentic IDEs with XML XSLT transformation challenges. And do leave your comment if you have any questions, and do leave a like, and also subscribe to my channel for similar kind of videos, and do reach out to me if you have more questions. With that said, see you and have a great time.